Well, welcome everyone. I know you had a long day of back-to-back sessions and the break Zoom rooms, and I just want to say thank you. We're so glad to have you here today. Um, my name is Kathleen Federici. I'm the Director of Professional Development for IPMI, and I am very happy and excited and have the pleasure to introduce Chris Elliston and Michael Back as they present how collaborative technologies will help drive safety first parking solutions. Chris Elliston is Senior Vice President of Enterprise at Parkhub, a Dallas-based business-to-business parking technology company serving professional sports teams, stadiums, arenas, universities, and premier entertainment venues across the US. Michael Back is a seasoned electronic payments entrepreneur who is applying his wealth of knowledge and experience to create innovative contactless payment solutions for the parking industry. This session will cover the rise of contactless parking solutions and the importance of collaboration in future-proofing the parking and mobility industry. Chris and Michael, the audience is all yours.
Thanks, Kathleen. Thanks for having us.
All right, I guess I'll get started. Kathleen, thank you for the introduction. Did a great job. Honk's been around since 2013. We operate North America wide. As Kathleen mentioned, founded from a background in payment technology. From a small startup, we've grown to operating in 150 cities, 2,500 plus locations, and service colleges, universities, private operators, real estate owners, hospitals, airports, and anywhere where there's paid parking. Our raison d'etre is contactless payments for parking. We provide, from the day one, we provide contactless payments for consumers, and we've made payment acceptance better, faster, smarter, cheaper for operators. Chris?
Awesome. Thank you, Michael. I noticed you look much happier in your picture than I do, so I'm going to update my picture here at some point. So as Kathleen said, I'm Chris Elliston, Senior Vice President at Parkhub. We are the country's, here in the US, the largest event parking technology company here. And we launched about 2015 or so. We reach about 2.5 million parking spots at different venues across the country. We've processed close to $750 million in total transactions. About 38 million vehicles have been parked during that time. And similar to Michael, we've got kind of a wide array of customers across the country, both geo and verticals. So think of large stadiums, large arenas. We're at about 42% of professional sports here in the US. A bunch of universities for their game day parking, state parks, state fairs, amphitheaters, PGA events. So really anywhere where there's a significant amount of event parking occurring, Parkhub is typically engaged in some fashion. And actually, we just came off of our sixth Super Bowl here a few weeks ago. So sometimes it's a short-term event, other times it's a season-long type event. All right, Kathleen, poll question. Am I reading this, or am I reading it? Oh, you got it. Perfect.
Oh.
I think Kathleen's muted. So the question is, what area of parking does your company handle?
You let me know when you want me to end the polling.
Does everyone have a chance to answer?
Only 47% voted so far.
Okay. Give it
Okay,
a few seconds.
yeah. Okay. We're pretty good. We're above 60%, so I'm going to end the polling now.
Okay, looks like close to half on the municipal government side, with universities right behind us. So that really fits in very nicely to Michael, to your world and to ours as well.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
All right.
Thank you for that. All right, Michael.
So let's talk about IPMI. IPMI has been a huge and very important launching ground for Honk. In 2019, Honk launched the first of its kind guest checkout experience, mobile guest checkout experience for parking. So, everyone thinks of guest checkout, or sorry, everyone thinks of mobile payments as an app, and everyone thinks of contactless payments as an app. Honk launched the first of its kind, non-app based, no app download, no physical hardware required guest checkout experience. We launched that in 2019. It's also the place that we met Parkhub. So in talking about collaborating technologies, we launched this kernel. We had an idea to move beyond an app and provide a payment technology that simplified payment acceptance on the supply side of the equation and made it convenient on the demand side of the equation. And that's where we met Parkhub. So over a bunch of drinks at the bar in a nice warm climate when travel was a thing and hopefully to be back soon in person, we started talking and seeing where our synergies lie and where personalities aligned, and we really hit it off. And that was the genesis of certainly, the relationship that we've started and, the background to where we get presenting to you today.
And just to add a little color to that, when you think of Parkhub, we are really more behind the scenes. We're non-consumer facing. We are truly a B2B organization. So our role in this sort of parking ecosphere is to manage payments at the venue itself, to scan prepaid passes from companies like Honk or ticketing companies or whatever it might be, handle exempts, VIP. So really, truly operational based versus consumer based. So it made all the sense in the world for us to partner with Honk. Here's just a few trends, and I'm sure most of you all are feeling some of this in the contactless world in particular. So certainly the parking space has evolved a lot over the last 2 or 3 years, and I say all the time that parking's evolved more in the last 3 or 4 years than it has the last 100 years. And one of the big trends is, and COVID really accelerated this, is going to contactless forms of payment. And so MasterCard, Intrust, Visa are sort of backing these statistics up. So the parking world's gone from very stodgy, cash heavy, flag waving, ticket tearing industry to more of a digital based industry, and contactless payments are at the forefront of that. And if you go to your local grocery store, you go to a retail establishment, wherever it's going to be, a lot of folks don't take cash anymore. And so parking is just falling in line with that. They're not necessarily being the pioneer around this, which is an okay thing. They're really just kind of following society's trends, which you see here is contactless. So I'm sure most of you are feeling that wherever you live across the country, maybe some more than others, but certainly we're seeing it in the parking world.
And to add a little bit of color to there, this groundswell began long before the pandemic. The pandemic certainly put a gasoline on this fire. But what contactless payments and mass consumer adoption of contactless payments has done is opened up, a ton of options and a ton of flexibility that never existed before. So previously, there were investments in hardware, whether that's at the retail counter with a PIN pad or whether in that's a parking pay station or a meter. Nowadays, and certainly the pandemic has taught people that I can tap my phone, I can tap my card. Apple Pay, Google Pay have all seen huge growth rates, and we're expecting this to continue long beyond the pandemic and well beyond the pandemic.
Absolutely. So real quickly, just talking about sort of our respective products here, and I'll save you the once upon a time on all of this, but Parkhub really, our main two products are, number one, it's a mobile handheld point of sale device that we call Prime. You kind of see there on the left side of the screen. That device is what the parking attendant is going to use, during an event. It's an LTE based device, so you don't have to worry about having, whiz bang Wi-Fi in the parking lot. So no Wi-Fi needed, no access points needed, no infrastructure needed, nothing to download, nothing to install. It strictly works off of LTE, which is nice. So it's an iOS, based device that connects to a sled, and whether you want to take, chip and pin payments or not, kind of dictates what sled you might use. So there's thousands of these in the field today. I mentioned some of the different venues where it's deployed. So that's what the parking attendant is going to use, and that device can handle all forms of payment. So whether it is cash, whether it's credit card, NFC-enabled cards, contactless payments, Apple Pay, Google Pay, you name it, it can handle all forms of those payments, including chip. And also it can scan, authenticate a prepaid pass. So whether that pass is, the reservation is coming through Honk, for example, or it's coming through the ticketing company like Ticketmaster, or TDC or SeatGeek, wherever it is, we can scan, authenticate that pass in real time and know exactly who the person is, what lot that pass is good for. We can see the person's name, so we get a better feel for, number one, who's coming to our events, and number two, what kind of redemption rates are we seeing on the prepaid passes versus the passes that were sold. And that really helps folks kind of think about how much more parking they might be able to sell based on those rates. And then the back-end tool is called Suite. That's our business intelligence tool. And that tool is tracking things both in real time and historical. So during the event itself, we can see exactly what's happening, by attendant, by revenue, by passes, utilization rates, lot fill rates, all that. So the operator of the event can see everything in real time, and also can see everything historically and figure out, okay, what were my utilization rates for a particular day of the week or a particular opponent or month, whatever it's going to be. Help me think about how I can sell this parking, better. So it's kind of a full turnkey, solution on the back end to all kinds of really cool data and reporting and analytics. And then we are certified ISO, so we can handle payments for customers that maybe don't have a merchant account or need to use ours. And then lastly, Parkhub Safe. This really was came out of COVID. It's a employee screening tool, health screening tool that's being deployed, I think, as I speak here at the San Antonio Spur. So just kind of another tool thinking about how we can help venues, during this and going forward. So that's super high level, I know, but that's kind of the basis of what Parkhub's about.
And for Honk, we're based, we started in the payment space. So as I mentioned, 2019, we launched the first of its kind app-less, contactless guest checkout experience. So no download, anyone with a phone could use it. So what we looked at the parking space and we looked at it as points of distribution, points of sale, and how do you deploy these points of sale? So our technology was about accepting payments anywhere, everywhere as quickly as possible, no power, no data, no pre-registration, nothing to download, et cetera. And then we've expanded that beyond the parking. And so, now TAP is being used for things like EV charging. It's being used for tolling and, other kind of mobility applications. It's also a distribution channel that people are using for merchant validation, and really just creates the ultimate flexibility around everything that we want to do in our parking lots. So we're talking about EV charging, we're talking about scooters, we're talking about bike share. These are becoming mobility hubs. They're not just cars anymore. So we're developing payment solutions and technology solutions that allow operators to sell these multiple products through multiple distribution channels. So beyond just the triggering of the transaction, we have permits, passes, daily, monthly, on-demand, advanced reservation, merchant validation, and really a whole suite of transactions that operators need. So whether it's a permit at a university, it's a reservation at a venue, or it's a transient parking session, at a on-street or off-street surface location, we provide the payment technology to enable any parking operator to sell that product.
Perfect. All right, Kathleen.
Yes, please take a few minutes and answer, or a few seconds, maybe 40 seconds to answer these two questions. Okay, I think the votes have been tallied. So I'm sharing the results.
Yeah, not very close. Not surprising, and good to see. I think we asked, if you asked those same questions a year ago, 2 years ago, and you might get widely different answers. So that falls in line with what we're seeing on the Parkhub side. And Michael, I guess it's the same you're seeing on the Honk side as well.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Thank you all for.
I would say that I'm pleasantly surprised by these numbers and the rate at which it's adopted. The question we should have asked is what percentage of consumers are using contactless payment methods, because it's our view that it's going to trend towards 100% in the future. We've already seen that electronic payments and using debit and credit cards is the predominant way to pay. So very soon we expect that coming out of the pandemic, as mobility increases, that all of these contactless payment methods will be the predominant payment methods.
Absolutely. Great to see that 0% said not important. That's awesome. Okay, a couple last things. So this slide here really talks about how our industry has changed. So I think the sort of the common theme here is that we're seeing a lot more open systems. Historically, a lot of vendors have been fairly closed off. It was very siloed. It was, hey, here's our system, and really doesn't talk to anything else. The consumer wants something completely different than that. And so it's forced our industry to really open up and become more networked, if you will. So, much like an airline might be, you can go to an airline site today and see, what flights are available, what's the price, what seats are available down the individual seat, all kinds of granular detail. You can't really, or haven't been able to see that historically in the parking world. So how do we facilitate that? There's a few different ways. There's booking engines out there that handle reservations. The operators themselves have a way of producing and selling parking. The venues have their way of doing it. The car companies are now putting in technology into the car itself, kind of an OEM, to be able to tap into different mapping systems and reservation platforms. So this whole customer journey really starts at home before you get to the event in our world, to say, okay, what parking is available for that event, for that night. And once I acquire that parking, I get exact instructions and directions to the actual spot, versus like a general location where we're all kind of converging at the arena or the stadium. I'm getting a map to the gold lot, the red lot, the blue lot. So these things are all kind of starting to come together. Because people want to see location, they want to see pricing, they want to see inventory, and see it very easily, and not have to go to a bunch of different places to go find that. So this is something that's really started to happen in the last probably year and a half, 2 years. I'm sure everyone on this call has probably experienced some way of purchasing parking, and it might have been they've gone to an event and they just buy a parking pass, and that's kind of it. And then from there, they're sort of on their own to sort of figure out where they're going and all that. There's companies, like the Honks of the world that can help facilitate that and improve that guest experience. This whole digital wallet concept is coming on too. So if you're buying a game ticket, a parking pass, your in-seat loyalty, your everything that you're dealing with for an event, all sort of in that digital wallet, that's a concept that's coming on strong. So the key to this really is that I think all the good vendors out there recognize that it's an API-driven world. We have to collaborate, we have to communicate, work with others, and make sure we're delivering the best possible guest experience, not just the best possible vendor experience. And Mike, I don't know if you want to add any color to that.
Yeah, I mean, you did a great job. I will end it in saying that, what the next phase of this is beyond an app. So all of these collaborative technologies will exist, definitely through an API interconnected system, where you have different technologies talking to one another, but they'll all be easily accessible, readily accessible on a guest checkout basis, kind of on the tap, like the tap of your fingers and the tap of your phone. So there will be that percentage of people, whether it be the season ticket holder in events or the permit holder in, say, a university scenario. There will be the people who engage, but the majority of people, and as we project that into the future, are really just going to want to work with what they have. So they're going to work with a device, whether it be Android or Apple. They're going to work with an NFC-enabled card, and they're going to work with what they have. So kind of version 1 of this has been, let's get everyone to download an app, jump through some hoops, register, and give us a bunch of info. The next inning and the next phase of this is going to be totally open API, collaborative, work with the existing infrastructure. Trillions of dollars have been spent in R&D on the Google platforms and the Apple platforms. These are rolling out on phones, on devices, in cars and whatnot. So it's driving and using these platforms that will be the future, and not necessarily something about downloading, register, making consumers drive through hoops.
Exactly. So don't feel bad if you're not at the far end of the spectrum here. Most folks are not. So it's an evolving space, and Michael said it well. So there's some tools out there, but ultimately, as he said, I mean, once we advance this, it's going to be very, very seamless for everyone involved. Okay, that was kind of our super high level look at things. And Kathleen, I don't know if you want to open it for questions. Happy to answer them.
Yes. If you have a question, you can either type it in chat and I will ask it to the presenters, or if you are comfortable, you can unmute yourself and ask it directly. We have about 8 minutes for questions, or if you have a comment or anything.
I'll go ahead and unmute. I think, and I'm from Parkhub, obviously, but I think it's just interesting to see the partnerships happen across the industry. And I just wondered your guys' perspective on, how you kind of engage and see a mutual value and how you carry out that relationship over time. If you have any insights on that, just a thought.
Michael?
Yeah, so I mean, I think for on the Honk end of things, it's quite simple. I mean, we're synergistic. There's a piece of the technology that we provide, and there's certainly a piece of the technology that Parkhub provides, and they don't overlap. There's different market segments that we operate in. With your focus on venue and our focus really more on municipal and university, even though there is some overlap there. So it really makes sense that, by working together, 1 + 1 = 3, we take kind of the best of what Honk has been doing for the last 7 and almost 8 years now, and what Parkhub's been doing, with speed to market and knowledge, know-how, et cetera, deliver products that, there's no competition in the marketplace, and deliver product to market, faster than we ever could individually. So, our relationship has been about a year old, and it's been thus far a great working relationship, and has opened doors, I think, on both sides of the table that we wouldn't have been able to open each other. And, it comes down to meeting at IPMI. I'm dating myself. But
I also want to say, can I add something there? Because I'm from Honk as well, and we work with all the Parkhub people all the time, and I'm in sales, so I work with the sales team. And I need to say that from the perspective of having two companies working together, you get a lot of different feedback. So oftentimes, whoever's, when I'm dealing with Tony in sales at Parkhub, he'll say to me like, have you thought about this? Or let's talk about this, or this is some feedback I'm getting. And it's just interesting feedback that I may not be getting. So there's like a nice synergy there. Like we can bounce stuff off of one another. And I think that's really important too. When you have two companies who are actually like, working apart yet working together, you just get there's just a nice vibe that tends to happen as long as everyone's getting along. But just that you wouldn't necessarily have in your own bubble of a company. So I think that's a really important piece of what happens between two companies that partner together.
Totally agree. Sometimes partnerships are just it's just paper. They're not really partnerships. Other times it's more collaborative, and certainly it's the case here. And Kathleen, I'm seeing a couple questions that were direct message. I don't know, they're just to me from Jeanette. Are you seeing those?
Well, I have a general question, so why don't we answer the general question first, then go straight to Jeanette? There's a question from Elizabeth. Who pays, clip of the ticket or merchant SaaS?
You want to start, Chris?
Yeah, so in our world, the consumer is going to pay for the parking, right? So they're going to go to whatever the purchase flow is for that event. They're going to buy their event ticket, and then it's going to take them to some place to go buy their parking. So they're buying the parking pass or there, and then when they get to the event, we're going to scan that pass, or they don't have a pass and they're going to do an on-site transaction. So either way, the consumer is paying for the event parking. I don't know if it's directed towards me or not, but that's and so we don't engage with the consumer, as I mentioned earlier. We're strictly just handling that payment or handling that pass.
Yeah, and I would say the same as in our boat. We, depending on the products and the services that we offer, it's typically the consumer who's paying for the product. Although we have had some situations where people have asked and preferred a SaaS model. So, we've been both, but I would say similar to yourself, it's the consumer who's buying parking. So any costs are kind of buried into the pass that they're buying.
Yep.
Chris, you said you had a question directed to your box, and then we can ask Chris's question.
Sure.
We have another.
Yeah, absolutely. And they're both similar, relates to cash and credit card. It says in the past, some customers prefer cash for small parking charges for under a few dollars. And we've also seen some social obligations to allow all payment types. Didn't know with COVID, is that changing? And the answer, it is changing. And I think on the event side of things, people have been very hesitant to make changes, because when you go here in the US, you go to a sports event, college or pro or wherever it's going to be, you typically park in your same spot. You don't like change very much. If you're tailgating, you're going to tailgate with the same people, and any disruption of that can upset people. But I think with COVID, it's allowed the schools, the venues, the teams, and I think Michael mentioned this earlier, to accelerate this idea of moving to digital forms of payment. So while cash is currently accepted, it has to be accepted, quite frankly, in some counties and states across the country. They may not change, for a while. So as long as that's in place, we'll certainly continue to support cash payments. But cash is inherently dirty. I mean, physically dirty from a bacteria standpoint, and certainly post-COVID, nobody wants that. There's no data around a cash transaction. We don't know who the person is, kind of what went down there, and it goes missing, believe it or not, occasionally when you're
right.
dealing with it. So there's definitely a big trend to get out of it, but it's not going to go away tomorrow. But certainly that's the way that it's all headed.
Yeah, and I'll just add that what we're seeing is that cash is already in the minority. Pre-pandemic it started in the minority, and cash acceptance, the cost of cash acceptance is quite high. So whether that's physical infrastructure, whether that's cash security, cash collection, vandalism, shrinkage, all the issues that come around with cash, the cost of cash collection is high. So I think it's really coming down to, we realize that our customers, being drivers, are in a higher socioeconomic bracket than typical cash users. So while you can't find the stat anywhere, I would say it is as close to 100% of anything that someone who drives a car, has a credit card, has a mobile device. There might be a small exception. So now it becomes down to politics. It comes down to, serving your customer. It comes down to a bunch of other factors. But in our world, even if cash acceptance, so fine, in a large parking lot, if one lane was cash acceptance and the other 5 lanes were not, you make your operation more efficient, more streamlined, you process more transactions faster, you have less issues, and all of those things. So while we absolutely see that people want to accept cash, we're also seeing the pandemic exacerbate the fact that we won't take cash anymore. Cash is dirty. We're not going to handle cash. It's strictly electronic. And I think that the offer of debit solves that problem for a lot of people. So, even if someone doesn't have a credit card, which I still think if you have a car, pretty much 100% of people do, in the odd case, if you don't have a credit card, you do have an electronic form of payment, which is a debit card.
We are actually out of time, but I just wanted to ask you Chris's question. Are you aware of any transit and parking payment integrations?
We're seeing it. You know, in our world, we're being asked to take our payment technology, what started in the parking space, and kind of apply it to mobility generally. So whether that be tolling, whether that be transit. So we're starting to see more and more of it. I don't think it exists en masse today, but I can tell you that our vision of the future, people will be walking around with their device and they'll be tapping it, and that'll open a turnstile at a metro station and open a gate at a garage.
Yeah, and we're seeing it. There's a unidentified NFL team that uses RFID technology, basically toll tag, for entry. It's not the only form of entry, but it's a piece of it. So we're looking into more of a broad application of that, thinking that maybe, you know, the toll tag type of technology might be a major player going forward, you know, for event entry.
Great. Well, we are out of time, but I wanted to thank both Chris and Michael, and to everyone who joined us today, thank you. And if you have any follow-up questions or you want to learn more about their collaboration and how they made it work, please email either Chris or Michael directly, and they'll be very happy to respond to your emails. So I wanted to thank everyone, and we have 2 sessions going on at between 5:30 and 6. One is managing commercial vehicle loading, and the other is one developer's strategic approach for parking structure construction. And we look forward to seeing you all tomorrow. Thank you and have a great night.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.